I am 22 minutes ahead of time. So I take this as a new course in the Italian lifestyle. We will be ahead of time. And what is more important, I think, I take this as a burden and also as an opportunity for regulators to be in general ahead of time. I don't know, each one of you, if you have the awareness of what you have witnessed today so far. Patient talked first, they usually talk last, and when everybody left the room, which is absolutely, I think, wrong. So this is what the process comes in. The patient talks first. And you have just heard a major regulator speaking about uncertainty. This is a forbidden word, you know, in regulators. So we could handle, I'm looking at Thomas, we could handle very bad side effects. We share you very bad side effects, lethal side effects. In fact, the example of thalidomide is quite pertinent. It's back on the market, but under certain circumstances. So we handle side effects, even terrible. What we not be able to handle so far was uncertainty. You could not tell the regulator, you know, I don't know. This is undetermined. I need some numbers for undetermination. But I'm afraid that numbers above indetermination goes to equations that are above the second degrees of type of solution, which are so far unsolvable. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to do exactly what Widorazia has said. And the third thing, and the President also highlighted this, you have heard a lot about the interaction of all the players in this field. So, who are the players? We have a very short table with regulators. On our table, we usually invite patient. They come first. So that's why we indeed, at Aifa, closed a protocol with your party. I think we are probably the only agency, yes, we are the only regulatory agency who are sitting with your party in devising all what Nicole has said, exactly. So we asked, and why we did this, because we asked all the patient organizations for many years, at least for the last 3 years, try to get me one single representative to which I can talk, okay, of a single organization. And then it was basically very difficult, if not impossible. So finally we select your party because exactly of the European Commission grant. And so patients are the first one who sits on this table. The second one who sits on this table are the so-called healthcare providers, whoever is involved in prescribing and giving, and pharmacists and doctors and academia work. Okay. The third is, of course, the industry that is making the drugs for the patients that are prescribed from the healthcare providers. Then we have the fellow regulators, because we cannot do regulated by them ourselves alone. We are even suspecting that Europe is a such small platform, you know, even divided small platform. So this again thanks to Guido and many others, but not too many others. The International Coalition for Medicine Regulatory Agencies was started, and I think now is on its way to a good conglomerate. And fifth, and the table is finished, the payers sit, so the HTA and the payers. This is a very short table, but very important table. Now, since all these interactions are together, one thing that is very important, and I think this underlies of the transparency directive in general for transparency, is very important, we consider mandatory, that everybody transparently says to everybody else what are the conflict of interest involved at any level. Not for police department thing. We are not jurisdiction in police, that's not what we do. It's only to know who is sitting in my table. This applies to all of these 5. Patients are not excluded from this, even if sometimes they believe they are. Okay? They are not. And of course, regulators are not. And industry is not, for many reasons that might not be pertaining to the commercial value of what they're doing. That's easy, of course. Other reasons. So, with all this, this is why we show this. This is the public declaration of transparency that follows the European Medicine Agency code, on which we basically judge and gauge each one of our participation. You should know that up to 4 years ago, I used to do CME events. Okay, I was not involved in any other level, but basically, if you have a cross in the direct interest, and currently on the last 2 years, you have some limitation. CHMP applies this, scientific advice applies this, all our scientific boards and things applies all this. So it's quite easy. It's on our website and many other websites. By the way, an housekeeping note, for those of you who have asked for the slides, all the slides that we were given permission to be put on public will be transformed in PDF and then deposited into the website of Aifa, or I believe the European Medicine Agency as well. You can go there, download it, use them as long as you provide the source and don't modify them, unless then remove the source, please, if you do that. Okay, so some of the current challenges are the one you see here. The drug price, yes. But again, this is not a single stone that you can consider alone. It doesn't mean anything, the drug price, and you cannot put a price on life, of course, so it depends whatever it is. In general, this could be an issue. The aging of the population, yes, but in some countries, you know, there are several other countries, and in the Middle East and the rest of the world, in which the mean age is 30, mean. So, aging of population where? Aging of population in Germany, yes, in Italy, yes, in other countries in Europe, this is a major issue. Also, considering very low birth rate, so that the combination makes it a huge problem. The sustainability of all this on one side, and in order to, you know, we are a soccer country, so in order to put the ball in the net, you need to confront these 3 major points with an equal access to medicine. Nicole has said this so well, I will not spend a single word. Access to orphan drug, this is another thing on which many words and not only now have been spent, and the European Commission as pushing us on this. We are trying to follow, but means also that the doctors are willing to then address the issue of orphan pathology. And industry are willing to develop orphan drug. Some of you probably know there are some orphan drugs that are made by only one drug company in the world. Only one. 1,000 patients in the world depend on that company, on that factory. If something happens to that site, no drug will go to no patient for whatever the problem is. So these are the issues that we have to confront. Access to innovation. I think Peter spent a couple of words, very significant on this, and also giving some highlights. I was not expecting, and I have to give you the courage of saying what you said. You're clearly stepping out on the orthodox role of an executive director. And that was the spirit for this speech. I don't know if any of you, then we had a long discussion, because we would get some of this time to you guys to discuss. But what Guido said, Michelle is nothing, I think was something not very easy. You stick your neck out, we will protect your neck because you did something which is very important. So it's only a matter of size and structure. Innovation, yes, we moved from very small molecule, very effective in what they do, to very large, even very difficult to handle molecule. It's also a matter of price, could be. This is something that the people that I was mentioning in my introductory remark, they would say, you know, there's nothing really innovative, this is only a matter of price, will tell you, but in reality this is a combination of a very complex two keywords. One is complexity, which is a complexity per se of the development of this drug, on the data gathering of this drug. You know, there are someone, nobody in this room, but it can be a very important political level, they are still convinced that the price of a drug should be judged on the price for production. We very often get interrogation asking us, can you ask the company how much did they spend to actually make this drug? It's like an apple, you know. And it's so, and if it's one apple, €1, two apple, €2, and so on. And you try to explain to them that instead it's the production of data that what makes the cost. And the production of data in the changing world on subcluster analysis, very complex individuals, biomarkers, and so on, might even be very costly, completely unrelated to the cost production. So, to give you an idea, the new inhibitor for the vascular endothelial factor, there is two, I will not say the commercial word, but you will know what it is. There is two indications. One is an oncological product, and one is for the macular degeneration of the eye. The same, exactly same compound, with some minor formulation changes, costs €9 per milligram in one indication, and 320 euros in the other indication. Has nothing to do with the production, of course. So it's complexity and, at the same time, singularity. So that means to move from the classical salami slicing type of approach that you have heard very much to the precision medicine approach, in which you would like to select this guy before. Patient's role is not too much on this side, rather on this side. I would like to know from patient what happens in real life when the drug is used and who is responding to what. And as a regulator, I would like to know this, especially to talk to my other players on the table, because if I discover that a specific drug works for me very well, and then I characterize in real life, I'm sure you can take on this, what this guy is, then the next generation of this same drug will be targeted to this individual. And I subselect again second cluster and third cluster. This is the only way we could advance, and the only way we can give better and better medication to the service of the patient. So, you know the Moore's Law. The Moore's Law was the one that Gordon Moore was one of the founders of Intel Corporation, set out in 1965. He said that the number of transistors in dense integrated circuits will double every 2 years. And you will hear from the panelists more. We have the Hiram's Law, which is the opposite of this, which means we are instead decreasing and decreasing the number of new drugs for cost of research and development. Again, keep in mind my introduction remark, we think that this will change, probably not coming up to this level, but for other constraints, but going up for sure to very significant, as Richard said, level that was not anticipated in the last 10 years or so. So this is one of the reasons why drugs are becoming innovative. Could be not. So, so the idea would be this. People will say, you know, there's nothing new because everything that was easy to pick up was picked up, and instead now everything to get is very difficult. So it requires you to go up on a ladder, getting more and more complicated fruit, and sometimes you fall out of the tree, so you hurt yourself. Let me give you an alternative explanation that it goes back quite a long time and has profound implications for those of you who are involved as a CEO or other senior level position into a pharmaceutical company, another level of explanation. So this is an historical perspective on drug discovery. This is about 15 years ago, published in Science. You go from antibiotics to antihypertensive drugs in about 25 years, a little bit less. And you do this by two means. These are sulfanylocrysosine, so sulfanylamide. These are derived from the amidine, from the original dyes from bio, okay, long time ago. And the sulfanylamide was perfectionated by, you see the yellow arrow, medicinal chemistry. So this is the world of medicinal chemists doing the job in the little laboratories. But these other white arrows are instead cross-referenced ATC, well, not even the ATC was there, jumps made by who? Made by physicians. These physicians were using these drugs for their actual use, okay, for their actual use, so as an antibiotic, and observed that something was happening to the diabetic people they were treated with these drugs. And they start telling to the medicinal chemistry and the companies, why can we do something chemically to change these drugs? So this was done, and then from here, hypoglycemic and all the diuretics were started. So from an antibiotic, an antihypertensive drug, and then again from here, you see other antihypertensive drugs were selected. What I'm trying to say is that in the old times, where the discovery was accelerated to an unprecedented way, the role of discovering physicians and pharmacists were in the beginning of the chain. Then, of course, machine came. Fondo machine. I've not used these machines. Big machines. Computational computer machines. The doctors, the pharmacists, the biologists were put aside. And technicians for computational chemistry, high-throughput screening. You remember those things, they're still alive, right? In silico screening, very nice. I like all this very much. But the knowledge, the cultural knowledge, and the technology of these guys has nothing to do with the patient. The patient is very, very far away. Doctors are in, but when? Phase 1, nothing. Phase 2A, 2B, then a CRO comes. Huge, conglomerate, it's a spectre, goes everywhere. They have iPads, everything is electronic. Don't talk to the patient. It's against the protocol. We made the protocol, okay? You break protocol, cannot do this. So I'm not talking to a patient asking other things, because it's violation of protocol. I cannot talk, I'm a psychiatrist, I cannot talk to the psychiatric patient to ask what is happening. So it's difficult. Now you arrive in phase 3, phase 4, and you discover something. It's too late to change the chain. This is why we seek the scientific advices, we try to steer. And it's very nice to see that the scientific advices in EMA, and then of course Thomas can say this and Guido can say this, is moving toward earlier life of the drug. So can we reposition the doctors? Can we do something in promoting that regulation of this drug, innovative drugs? With all the things said that you have heard today. Let's see how we can do this. These are the regulatory tools of which Guido has talked: market authorization and conditional market authorization, new pharmacovigilance regulation, new regulation of clinical trials, all this going into a new regulatory framework. This, as you will see, is very powerful. If it's used in a proper way, this becomes very powerful even for clinical trials. So this is where we are trying to build the future. So the idea will be, and we're doing this very much, Guido has talked extensively about this, and this is a slide that I took from him. He doesn't know, but because he picks into my slide, I pick it on his slide. So the idea will be then, instead of the usual market authorization waiting for the access of patient, what we'll do, we put HTA needs in the beginning, in a joint scientific advice as a HTA value, and then we move the access to patient for at least a couple of years. So if this is in the ongoing process, same thing happens on an ongoing development, and therefore we do revise level of this. Again, acceptance of an higher level of uncertainty should not mean an acceptance of an higher level of risk. I see a problem here. And the problem I see, I think there are any lawyers in the audience? Yeah, I thought so. One? Yeah. It's going to be a legal problem. This is going to be a legal problem. Guido has put it down bluntly, and the president has been taking, so that the lawyer should explain to us how we rule the consensus informed on an uncertainty. So I'm basically telling you that I'm uncertain about this medication. And you ask, you're uncertain about what? Well, you know, I'm uncertain even about this. I don't know or what I'm uncertain. So it's a meta uncertainty. Very difficult to regulate legally. Very difficult. Now, think about your legal offices in your companies. They have to release this, or in the ethical committees. We clearly need a piece of legislation. We clearly need a piece of legislation at the European level to allow us to do something like this. Because otherwise, from this, I'm afraid, I might be wrong, I'm afraid we can be altered on this process. So the cycle approach for regulators is this: clinical development, market entry, real-world safety, and the HTA will do all this below it. I will go quickly through this point to show you what the Italian strategy has been on these 4 points. So the early dialogue and scientific advice, that's what we have done. We have moved very much into EMA, HTA parallel advice, with Germany and England and several other countries that you see. We are releasing a lot of this. Perhaps we have to involve more countries. This would be very helpful, if you think. So that's a goal that I believe the European Medicine Agency has in mind, and we are very much supportive of all this. The second thing that we're doing national HTA scientific advice at many levels, and joint parallel advice. We're doing also joint advice with FDA, because that's another thing that we need to address. And early UNETA, early dialogues. And let me show you. From in the last 2 years, we did 21 of such advices. We've done nothing before that. So it's been a very strong support to do this from the agency. Interesting, this is the comparative analysis that issues related to clinical development were systematically analyzed, and you see that cost effectiveness and other economic aspects are more relevant to UNETA than in other advices. Another thing, what are the topics that we are covering? The topics are oncological, interestingly enough, nervous system, more and more are coming, and then rheumatology and infectious disease. Now put this data together with the forecast analysis that was sent confidential, but I think I can give you the ballpark. Boss, can I give the ballpark? Yes. The ballpark is that up from here to the end of 2016, EMA will process a lot of new applications, of which the most representative will be oncological, as usual. Second position, anti-infective drugs, mainly hepatitis C, mainly, because there are 8 of them coming. And then central nervous system, for the first time. Cardiovascular is not there. For the first time in forever, 20 years, cardiovascular is not in the first 3 points. Is that because cardiovascular is not important anymore? No, it's very important. It's crucial to the health of a lot of people. But those areas are covered in certain ways, and most of the other areas are uncovered, so scientific advice are coming on that field. So, interesting, especially probably for drug companies, the analysis shows that we have a very high concordance on value proposition, safety, and trial design. We agree on this. We are not concordant, and that's something for all of us to work on the stratification of subgroups. That's below 50% concordance, so it means 1 out of 2 we disagree. It's a very high number. We should work on this because what I just said. The future is going to be on subgroups and in cluster analysis and in meta-cluster analysis. Now, if we disagree on this, it's the worst number of agreement we have. We clearly need to work because otherwise, you know, in 5 years from now, you will come and everything is done. You say, why did you select these people? Oh, because I thought that. I know a professor there told me this. I had a consultant telling me this. My medical department told me this. So why didn't you come earlier? We would have told you that you should have selected other type of biomarkers. And by the way, scientific advices are not binding regulatory. So you can take the advice and not use it. But at least you take the advice and you know the position that we have, and CHMP releases the final advice letter. So it's coming from the CHMP. So it's subjected to, scientific advice plenary, then CHMP plenary. It's something that might be of help. So conditional reimbursement, I go quickly. What we have done in the conditional reimbursement, this is the European management entry agreement taxonomy, financial scheme. I'm not going to go into detail with Hugo here and others that are absolutely expert in the field, but you have progressive level and you have progressive interaction between these two things that we are proposing several level management agreement who could be, for instance, a part of the solution for approaching the high cost of these drugs, at least for some, because otherwise the answer will be binary. Yes, no, yes, no. Probably this is not the right way of approaching this. This is what we're doing in Italy, very much like this. We have a financial scheme, there is even volume agreements, cost sharing, budget cap, and then performance-based, all the monitoring registries that I showed you in a second, payment by result, risk sharing. As you see, believe it or not, as regulator, we are evolving. 2 years ago, you will find here another dot, which will be cost sharing. Cost sharing is gone. We're not using cost sharing anymore. We're using risk sharing and it's fading, and we're going into payment by result alone. We're trying to select rules, and that's why science is needed. Kaplan-Meier survival curves for oncological programs are well known, progression-free survival. Can you apply progression-free survival in non-oncological product? How do you use the time to event? Complicated mathematics. It's probabilistics. It's Bayesian. Okay, this is the type of things we are analyzing. The regulators are making a strong contribution to the science of developing medicine. And that's the way we are approaching this. I don't want to be sounding assertive. A lot of things we don't know. There are problems that we are trying to share. Please give us a solution, or at least let's talk. These are the things that are on the table. Finally, the monitor registries. The monitor registry we consider the core of the entire system. We use them what they are. We have completely redesigned them, threw away everything we had, spent millions of euros to remake these machines that now are dynamic monitoring databases that evaluate the utilization in clinical practice, collect epidemiological data, get information, and collect post-evaluation. This registry tracks the appropriateness of use of medicine in a regulatory manner. They are regulatory certified. So whatever you take out from this registry, you can bring it to whoever you want and say this is what happens in the real life, and the regulatory agency, the Italian regulatory agency, will put a stamp on it, and you can do whatever you want. These are collected, owned by Aifa. You have access to your drug because you pay for the maintenance, okay, to the data. The analysis we have to share because of the implication of the analysis. But basically you have a lot of information. We have, as of today, 300,000 unique treatments that we can follow completely. And this is where we are going. We think, you have heard, proposal. I think this could be part of the solution. This could be the common evidence generators in the real life treatment, represent this opportunity between the cooperation of the players that I just told you in order to achieve synergy, strategy, and especially consistency. Consistency is very important. Now, let me tell you a little story of one of the largest database registers that we have is the one on the incretins, okay? GLP-4, the DPP-4, GLP-1, those things. About 80,000 patients analyzed. The old registry, so kind of dirt a little bit, but real life utilization. The paper is going to come out this month. Good journal, about 5 impact factor, 4.5 impact factor. It took us 2 years to publish this. All the very important journals, even with 80,000 patients, turn it down. Why? And rightly so. Why? Because the data were dirty. Yes. Well, then I give you the data in real life utilization are dirty, by definition. What doctors do and patients do and whatever comes in the middle of things is dirty. It does not represent anything in the clinical registration, no way. Not in the phase 3 or phase 4 trial, no way. It's much more complicated than this, but that's what people do. And sometimes the responses have no sense, okay? Now, it's very uncertain, very uncertain. Try to get a law out of this and make it, not a scientific or regulatory law, but then try to make it some new way of getting new drugs going. Very complex, very complex. So, we're moving toward pathology registries with technical improvements on this. And the same patient can be tracked across different registries, across different counties of Italy, across different doctors. Same therapeutic indication standardized. There's no way you can get a second line treatment if you have not done the first one. The machine will recognize this, will not, unless you do something fake, then you go into some other problems. But you have a social security identification that identifies you for sure. So it's going to be more consistent and more reliable and much more. I had an animation in this, but it's not working because it's a video. That's why I arrived a little late. We're trying to upload this. But I can show you, I can provide you some of this, probably in a video that we can put up in the website. And it will show you that, as of today, we treated with what. So, there are pros. I think the most important one, if you have to take a message from this, is the first one. You can negotiate an access to reimbursement for every single indication. Think about this. Think about now that, for instance, monoclonal antibody or other compounds are moving and crossing ATC class completely. If you use the the selling boxes, you will have the total amount of those boxes sold for that drug, but not for the indication. This indication is certified. So if the regulatory agency has told you that you have a payment by result on an indication, and you have a risk sharing on another indication, then we can apply differential type of reimbursement. And then you can funnel back your dossier to have more and more therapy approved. There is cons, there is an administrative workload, especially for oncological. We are trying to solve this by software, facilitator we call it, that will facilitate the burden for doctors. How much is this? This, for certain indication, oncological complex, if the doctor is a wizard in computer, it will take about 15 to 20 minutes. If it's not good, it will take up to 45 minutes. It's very, very, very burdensome. So some doctors will say, look, I have to treat patients, I cannot spend my time in doing something else. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this is personal. The doctor has to do this. A nurse cannot do this in our bylaws. You are responsible for the prescription, you have to tell me that you have done this prescription for this patient. So we're working around this, but if the law does not change, we need facilitators because it's clear. I'm moving to the the final thing is the reassessment, why we think the pharmacovigilance answer is important and why we think that this will provide a lot of information because, among other things, there are the PIs and the PAS who allow us to do the periodic assessment of both efficacy and safety, and those are legislatively binding and we can use them also to do other levels of reassessment. So, can we take down the wall between one centralized procedure, legislation, and well-defined methodology of the regulators with instead 28 different systems, national competency, different methodology, and things that are involved with the payers. There is a global coalition here, a new synergy and cooperation there. Perhaps, if we are good enough, we can do this. And that's what we are hoping and what we are proposing. This is the network of the European medicine network. I'll go fast on this, sorry about running. There are very distinguished representatives here of UNETA, they can speak later. Let me give you two slides that I was asked to give you. This comes from the hepatitis C. We have heard from Nicola, we all agree. I have a question mark here. The prevalence is high, probably is very high, probably is medium high, but there is a question mark. We cannot actually get this number certified by anyone. What is exactly the number of this patient? Now, bear with me 1 second. This is very difficult for a payer. Are we here saying that we are treating 10,000 people, 100,000 people, or 1 million people? You say, oh, come on, cannot be two orders of magnitude. In some countries, this is between 1 order and 1 and something of magnitude. Okay, and let me show you this. Yeah, this is the yellow story. Politician or God. The ongoing discussion is this. Okay. Trying to address this. It could be probably a solution for this drug. It could be a very difficult path to take for other drugs. And so the suggestion from this paper is, as said, we should address issues politically. You probably know that Wyden and Grassley, US Senate, asked Gilead for a lot of explanation. The question was asked on July 11. They had 60 days to comply. The day elapsed on September 11. To my knowledge, this answer did not arrive. So I think there are issues in providing these answers. These are difficult answers,
to answer and cannot be just probed simply at the political level. So the ongoing discussion is this, and tomorrow I will provide the results from the meeting that we had in Brussels the other day. I was told from the French parent representation to present this. So can we do differential pricing, GDP per capita once, and then adjust it by prevalence and adjust by price and volume? This could be a possibility. Adaptive reimbursement based on this. Are the current HTA methodologies still adequate to this? Well, let me tell you a very blunt answer. I think by now you should know I'm very direct. I don't think they are. I don't think the current HTA can handle these type of things. Atorvastatin, in the first year of its launch, did $868 million and arrived between 12 and 13 billion per year for a total of 148 billion total revenue. The most large success of a single molecule, small molecule, ever in the history of pharmaceutical industry. The Sophos movie was projected by analysts, and very good, you will hear the analysis today by a very distinguished speaker, was projected to do $11 billion in 2017. It will make more than 12 this year alone, first year of launch. So everybody out of the room. There is no any more model that we can follow on this. Ugo is going, no, sorry, it means I might be saying something right. So we have to come up with a new model. And this is my last one. Are we ready, basically, to mix and put together regulatory science and HTA, innovation and value, and expenditure control and appropriateness, and once we have done this, to come back here and refine the circle. Thank you, and sorry I was long, I got passionate. Thank you.